my gorgeous plant people, welcome back to Reading Mindfully. My name is Ayana, and today I am going over my favorite plant products and supplies, so let's just get into it. Hey guys, so like I was saying, so today I'm going through my favorite plant products. These are the plants or the products that I use all the time to take care of my plants, and I just feel like I tried so many products throughout my plant journey, and these are like the tried and true, the ones that I just rely on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and the ones that I'm pretty much going to stick with for the rest of my journey. So let me just show you what we got going on. So as far as lighting, I do use grow lights for my plants. I wish I was one of those parents that had all this beautiful natural lighting and tons of windows, but I don't. So I do substitute with grow lights, and the two companies that I use are Sanzi and Soltech. And so these are my favorite light bulbs. I have used about 6 light bulbs throughout my whole journey, and these are the two that I have landed on. They are both full spectrum light bulbs, and I just love them both. I use them to, supplement extra lighting. I will grow plants under the light bulbs, like just directly under light with no additional lighting, or I will use these for propagation. So I really do like these light bulbs. I will do a comparison, like a comparison of these light bulbs, just so you guys can see the difference between the two. But like I said, these are both full spectrum. I really like both of these. I do notice that the Sanzi light bulbs are more daylight. They're more cooler tone, while the Soltech are warmer tone. But I like them both, and I continue to use them both. As far as watering, I always recommend using a moisture meter. I've used this moisture meter since almost the beginning of my plant journey. I still use this. This has kind of failed me this year, but I still rely on it. I was using this outside this year, and for some reason it wasn't accurately detecting the moisture level in my plants. So I did have to resort to using the finger test, or just weighing the pot, versus the dry versus fully saturated. So while I have been using other methods, I still rely on this one, and I still recommend this for beginners, and especially for people who tend to overwater their plants. And then also, I remember when I first started going through my plant journey, I would use those aesthetically pleasing watering cans, and I still have those watering cans. I just don't use them like I used to, because I just have too many plants at this time. So I just use a regular gallon jug of water. I will buy these jugs of water every once in a while, and then I will just use these gallon jugs to water my plants. I don't buy distilled or spring water all the time. I just water my plants too frequently. I think I use about 6 gallons of water every time I water my plants. And now that my plants are outside, I'm probably using 12 to 18 gallons of water. So that is the reason why I don't use any special kinds of water for any of my plants. They all get tap water. But if I do remember ahead of time, I will put the water in the jugs and let them sit out for 24 to 48 hours. But most of the time, I'm just filling up my water jugs at the sink and then using them to go ahead and water my plants. Next thing that I have stumbled upon is I've changed up my fertilizers quite often these last couple of years and months, just trying to figure out which kind of fertilizers that I would like to use for my plants. And I finally stumbled on a combination that I'm going to keep for the rest of my plant journey. And so first, I went back to my tried and true, which is the indoor Espoma fertilizer. This is a 222, so it is an organic natural fertilizer. This is what I used to use in the beginning of my plant journey, and I found that my plants really like this one. But I did want something that had a little bit more nutrients and things to it. So this year I tried the Jack's all-purpose fertilizer, which is a balanced 20-20-20, and I have to say I really enjoy this combination of chemical and organic fertilizer. Normally when I fertilize my plants, I try to just use products that are more organic and natural, but I find that I really do like this combination. I like this one because it has like the bacteria and the things that keep the soil, like alive and keep it prospering. And then this one I like because it has the other nutrients that plants like. I do know that there are a lot of companies out there that are passing along products that they say are fertilizers, but they're not fertilizers. They cannot legally be sold as fertilizers, and so it can be confusing when you're looking for fertilizers on the market. I feel like I should do a video on fertilizers, so that way you know the difference between like plant foods like biostimulants and things like that. But this is definitely a fertilizer. You can see the NPK on the front of the label, and this one also has the NPK on the back of the label as well. So they're both definitely categorized as fertilizers, and like I said, I really like the combination, and my plants have been liking it as well. I am a person that I will fertilize my plants on a weekly basis, so I do fertilize my plants more often. I will just use a weaker solution, and I feel like my plants like that better than just being dosed all at once, like once or twice a month. And so the next products that I use to maintain my plants are these pruning shears. So I use the narrow ones for like the smaller plants that I have, the smaller stems like Hoyas and things like that. And then I will use these mainly for like my philodendrons, my monsteras, ones that have thicker stems. And I just find that these help with propagating, with pruning plants back. And it's nice to have shears that are separate, that you can use for your plants, rather than just using like a pair of scissors that you would use for everything else in your home, opening boxes, things like that. Just having things that are designated just for your plants, to that way you can reduce like bacteria, viruses, and things like that. So I like using these shears. Another thing I like to use to maintain my plants is this Velcro. I remember beginning my plant journey, I was using twine, and while I like the twine, I like the way it looks when you tie it back on the plants. It can look a little crazy if you're using a lot of it, or if you're like tying bigger plants like a monstera. It can just look very unorganized and just messy. And plus it's hard to reuse twine. It gets wet and it gets moldy sometimes, and so I was really happy when I came across this Velcro. I like that you can reuse the Velcro. You can cut it into whatever size that you need. I often do just cut the strips, and then if I happen to cut the strip too short, you can just put it on top of another piece and it'll make your piece longer. So I do like to use products that I can reuse and don't have to constantly purchase. I purchased this roll of Velcro a couple years ago and I'm still using it, so it definitely does go a long way and is very beneficial for monsteras, philodendrons, plants that need staking, plants that you just need to kind of pull together to make them more full. So I definitely recommend this as well. And then as far as temperature and humidity, I always recommend using a hygrometer just so you can see how your house is functioning, especially if you're one that is more concerned with the humidity in your home, making sure that the humidity is pretty good for your plants. My humidity right now is in the low 60s. That's because I'm running the air conditioning, but I like to keep a constant check of the humidity, not just for my plants, but just to make sure that my humidity is not getting too high, because if I don't run my humidity, or if I don't open my windows and doors, my humidity does go a lot higher in my home, and I don't want any chances of getting any mold in the home. I don't want any mold on my furniture, on the walls or anything, so I do use a hygrometer to monitor that, aside from my plants, just so I can make sure that everything is going smoothly, and that I won't, like I said, have any issues with mold, because that's very important to me as well, besides the growth of my plants. And then lastly, as far as pests and maintenance and making sure that that's taken care of, I do use a couple products in my selection here. So my favorite product is this Captain Jack's Dead Brew Bug. I really like this one for spider mites and thrips, and you can use this on like a weekly basis, or you can wait till you see the spider mites or whatever pests you have on your plants. This really is very effective on pests and things like that. What other things you can use are things like neem oil. I don't use neem oil too often, but I do use it sometimes. And this one you can use as a preventative kind of measure for pests. I would just say with neem oil, if you're going to spray it or put it on your plants, that you wait until the sun goes down, or you wait until your grow lights go off, just so you make sure you don't have any burning on the leaves, because it is an oil. It will burn your plant leaves if you spray it or if you put it on the leaves, and then it comes into contact with light, so I would be very careful with this. You can also mix this with Castile soap, which I've done that before. I've mixed it with the Castile peppermint soap, and that's also a great combination to use for pests. And then if my infestation is really bad, I like to use these granules. This is very effective. What you would do is just wait till your plants are dry, or wait till you're about to water your plants. You would use the directions on the back accordingly and put the amount in the soil, and then you would go ahead and water it in, and then the plant will soak this up through the roots, and once the insect comes into contact with the leaves, they will go ahead and perish. So I do like to use that, especially if I have like a bad thrip infestation or something like that. I will use that. Something else you could use if you're having like mealybugs or something like that is alcohol. I only have mealybugs like every once in a while. The last time I had mealybugs was like last summer. I had an instance, and that's because it came from a nursery that had a mealybug issue. And so I usually don't have mealybugs too often. I usually have spider mites or thrips. And so that is when I pull out my Captain Jack's. But yeah, those are all of the products that I use in my plant collection. These are my tried and trues, the ones that I will stay with. Also, I do use black gold soil. That is my favorite soil to use. And I mix that with perlite, and that's the only thing I use for soil and things like that. Sometimes I will mix worm castings in my soil just to get some, benefits, extra benefits in my soil. But I try to keep things pretty simple and easy. That way I'm not doing a whole bunch of extra things. I'm not having to use a whole bunch of extra products, because when you're trying out different products, it does become a little bit costly, and sometimes it becomes a hassle to try to keep things up, especially if you're using different things for different kinds of plants. And all of these products I use for all of my plants, regardless of what kind of plants they are. If they're blooming plants, if they're foliage plants, I use all the same products for all of them, and I find that all of them do well with the same products. So I just wanted to show you guys the products that I have been landing on, the ones that I have been using religiously. I will, like I said, do a video comparing the grow lights that I have, and then I can also do a video on my fertilizers and the difference of fertilizers and plant foods and things like that, so that way you guys can look out for that and save a little bit of coin. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching my videos, liking and subscribing, and let me know in the comment section below what kind of products that you use. I'm always curious to know, and as always, I will see you in the next video.